Welcome to another episode of Read and Read's Slater Hall Sports Hour.
Now, this is our third actual episode, but it's the first coming to you from Slater Hall. We are actually inside our room in Slater Hall right now, so no more false advertising. This is the real deal. If you don't want to listen to the whole episode, there will be timestamps in the description. Go to the segment you want to listen to.
And in a football-dominated podcast again, we will start with some MLB news here. We'll start with some waiver deadline trades. The first one we have is Andrew McCutchen to the New York Yankees. Giants got two prospects. They slotted in as the 17th and 18th in their organization. Andrew McCutchen has had a down year compared to his MVP standards. He's only at 255 with a 772 OPS this year, with 15 home runs and 55 RBIs. And he's actually had decent numbers defensively in the outfield. But the big implication of this is Aaron Judge's wrist. After injuring it right around the All-Star break, it shows he may not be close to returning. With a lot of guys with Stanton, Andrew McCutchen, Aaron Hicks, Aaron Judge, and Brett Gardner all needing time in the outfield, and the DH only holding one spot, there's going to be a lot of guys vying for time when he comes back. And with only 27 games left in the Yankees, this is the definition of a rental.
Another big move at the waiver trade deadline, Josh Donaldson, former AL MVP, got moved to the Cleveland Indians. The Blue Jays got back a player to be named later. They were desperate to get rid of Josh Donaldson and his salary. He hasn't played this season since May 28th. He's currently on a rehab assignment. If that goes well, if the Indians can get anything out of him, even close to his MVP form, it'll help contribute for sure in a loaded AL come playoff time.
Moving Jose Ramirez back to second base, that infield becomes really scary. The next one we have is it's a little more under the radar, but it could be a big help to an NL contender. Is Gio Gonzalez got traded to the Brewers. The Brewers needed a starter desperately, but they didn't get one before the non-waiver trade deadline. He is having a down year compared to his career standards. He does have a 4.57 ERA and a 1.53 WHIP in 145 innings, but he's been particularly bad in the second half, posting a 6.55 ERA and a 32-22 strikeout to walk ratio since the All-Star break. The Brewers did need a veteran with postseason experience on their inexperienced staff, and the Brewers just gave up their 29th prospect and a lower-level player, and they additionally got back $250,000 of international signing money.
Another big move in the NL Central, Daniel Murphy, traded by the Washington Nationals to the Chicago Cubs. Nationals got a Class A infielder and a player to be named later back. So far, Daniel Murphy's been playing second base and leading off for the Cubs. He's been added to a deep position player field already. Since he's been with Chicago, he's been productive. Little trouble on defense, but that's kind of his reputation. But he's been swinging it. And when he was added to the Cubs, the offense was scuffling a little bit. He's helped them get back on track, and he should be a great addition come playoff time.
Feels like after July 31st, you don't really see big names get moved, but it feels like this year is a lot busier than usual.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You don't see names like McCutchen and Daniel Murphy and even Josh Donaldson moved after July 31st usually.
So we're just going to move on to the last part of our MLB section of the podcast. We're just going to go over what we project as the playoffs from this point going forward.
Yeah, we'll start with the AL. Division winners, I'll go first. I have the Astros winning the West. You thought it'd be runaway, but the A's and Mariners kind of too far off at the moment. Central, Indians are running away with it. That's obvious. And then the East, obviously, the Red Sox.
I had the same division winners. I really want to pick the Athletics, but I think the Astros are just too deep to let the Athletics take over the division.
Okay, and then my wild card one in the AL, the New York Yankees. Not a lot of hype behind the Yankees right now, but they do have the second best record in all of baseball. I think they'll, especially with the additions they made at both the trade deadline and the waiver deadline, they'll coast into the first wild card.
I have the Yankees as well. Not much of a surprise, but I have the Athletics as the second wild card spot. Now, if you look at this, the Athletics go into it. They play the Yankees in the first round, and then they play the Red Sox in the second round. That's two of the three highest payrolls in baseball. If they can, it's just like Moneyball. If they can beat the Yankees and beat the Red Sox, even if they don't win the World Series, I tell you.
Now, I also have the A's as a second wild card, but I'd really like to see the A's at least get farther than they usually do in the playoffs. Just a great story for this organization.
Moving on to the NL now, I have the Braves pulling out the East. They are up 4 games right now in the Phillies, so I do think they'll be able to hold on to that. I have the Cubs winning the Central, and they're 4 games up on the Brewers as of now, and I do have the Dodgers winning the West, just inching out the Diamondbacks and the Rockies.
Yeah, I have the same division winners, Cubs and Braves. I don't think is going to come very close. Dodgers, it's a loaded West right now. They just have clearly the most talent of any of those teams. I think that they've been underachievers all year thus far, but I think they'll inch out a division title.
And the wild card, I have the Brewers getting the first wild card spot. I had it as a toss up between them and the Cardinals, but the Brewers' schedule the rest of the season is bad. They have a really easy coast to the first wild card spot, and then I have the Cardinals as the second wild card spot, and they still have a lot of tough games coming up. And I do have them inching out all three of the Diamondbacks, Rockies, and Phillies.
Yeah, I have the same two wild cards, Brewers and Cardinals. Most of the same reasons. Brewers have an easy schedule going forward for the rest of the year. Play the Cubs a couple of times, but other than that, nothing special. I did want to put for a long time I had the Cardinals at wild card 1 just because of the Brewers, and they could do something like the Brewers usually do and mess up before the playoffs start. But Brewers seem to be coming on, a lot of good position players. We'll see if the pitching staff can keep up.
So I think this year the playoffs are going to be really interesting. There's so many. It's so top heavy. There's so many good teams this year. I think it'll be a real fun playoffs.
We'll see how the powerhouse teams, the Yankees and the Red Sox, whether one of them will make it to the World Series or if a surprising team like Oakland could make it.
So that was our baseball section of the podcast. Now we're just going to move on to the college football section. We're going to talk about the Iowa Hawkeyes football game this weekend.
And what a game it was. Season opener for Iowa, as it was for most teams around college football. They ended up winning the game 33-7 against their opponent, Northern Illinois. This game was at home in Iowa City. It was a garbage time touchdown for Northern Illinois with the backups in, so in reality it felt like a shutout for Iowa. There were a lot of storylines behind this game. Nate Stanley, a lot of hype in the offseason for him. It was a little bit of a shaky performance, but he seemed to get better as the game went along.
I think what helped him is the running back by committee, because at the end of last year, Torrin Young really started to take the garbage time carries. So I thought for sure, with Wadley leaving, I thought for sure he'd get the meat of the carries. But Ivory Kelly Martin came in and was a starter for this game, but Torrin Young had a lot of big runs that helped open up the offense.
Yeah. Offensive line as well, not quite as crisp as we've seen them in their zone scheme. That's also due to 2 starting tackles being suspended for week 1. We'll see how it looks with the full line there next week. I know play that I was disappointed to see, Fant dropping a deep ball, beautiful pass from Nate Stanley early in the first quarter, actually on the third play of the game, yeah. So that led to a punt, which eventually got blocked. So a little bit of a shaky start on offense. Someone on offense who I thought had a standout game, TJ Hawkinson, proved to be reliable, third down, red zone target behind Noah Fant, someone who, with all the attention Fant gets, he's going to get a lot of targets this season. And then also, my unit, I can't give it a player of the game, so I'm going to go unit of the game, Iowa defensive line. They wreaked havoc on Northern Illinois all day, rushed the passer, tackles for loss. Parker Hesse had 2 sacks after having 4 all of last year. AJ Epinesa cannot be stopped, had a sack fumble. Anthony Nelson got to the quarterback as well. It was just a great performance by a standout defensive line.
So we're just going to go over a few other minor headlines from college football. The big one that a lot of Big Ten fans are looking at is the Penn State game. They almost got upset by Appalachian State in week 1.
10 years to the day that Michigan got upset by Appalachian State. Or at least I was thinking it was going to happen again. Just Penn State inched out a win at home.
45-38. They won in the first overtime. They scored a touchdown, and they held Appalachian State to 0 points in the second half of the first overtime, and they did end up inching out the game.
That really would have shut up Trace McSorley's Heisman candidacy, or at least many would think if they lost to Appalachian State at home week 1.
And the other headline we're going to go over is the Alabama quarterback situation. And people are obviously starting to get on Nick Saban's nerves, judging by the interview, but it's just Alabama's never had talented quarterbacks that can take over a game, because with their defense and their skill position, they just need a game manager to win championships. So it's weird to have them have someone like this, like Tua.
And also, I think people are always on Nick Saban's nerves. This is nothing new with the quarterback controversy. But no, Tua looks like the clear starter. He should be moving forward. Give credit to Jalen Hurts. I don't know how many people could have handled this whole situation going back to last year, getting benched in the title game, better than he has. He could start for a lot of teams around college football, and many fan bases are letting him know that, recruiting him on Twitter. But Saban said they'll look to utilize Hurts and his abilities moving forward. We'll just see how that situation plays out.
So now to the meat of our podcast. We got a lot of stuff about the NFL, and we're going to start with the mega extensions for everyone, but mostly focusing on the defensive players, Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack.
I mean, yeah, in a week where Odell Beckham got the most guaranteed money for wide receiver and Aaron Rodgers the most guaranteed money for anyone in football, focusing on Khalil Mack, but firstly, Aaron Donald. He finally agreed to a deal with the Los Angeles Rams. I didn't know if this ever was going to happen. They were paying everyone but him. Darnold agreed to a 6-year, $135 million contract. He got a $40 million signing bonus, and roughly $87 million of his contract was guaranteed. That was an NFL record for a defensive player at the time of signing. That's an important part of that at the time of signing. Khalil Mack, story of the week. He was traded by the Raiders to the Chicago Bears in a blockbuster deal. I woke up to my phone alert as a Bears fan and was extremely excited that the Bears added someone and were willing to pay him what he's worth. The trade details: Oakland got a 2019 first rounder, a 2020 first rounder, a 2020 third rounder, and a 2019 sixth rounder from the Bears. In return, Chicago gets Mack, as stated before, a 2020 second round pick, which is a surprising part of the deal, and a conditional fifth round pick in 2020. After the deal was processed, Mack agreed to a 6-year, $141 million deal with the Bears. $60 million was guaranteed at signing, and overall $90 million of it was guaranteed. The most, surpassing Aaron Donald as most for a defensive player.
As my co-host tells me, he thinks that I'm all about offense and scoring and position players. So my take on this is a lot different than his take. Although I don't agree with it, I agree with his side. I do enjoy defense, but paying defensive players this much money just doesn't make sense. When you think about the landscape of the NFL, it's a quarterback league. Quarterbacks win you championships. Defensive ends / outside linebackers and defensive tackles don't win you championships. You can game plan around a defensive lineman. You can't game plan around Aaron Rodgers. You cannot stop him from touching the ball every single play. Whereas you can get the ball out quick. You can run away from Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack, and that completely wastes them. And signing a non-quarterback to that much money handicaps a team in free agency. Because if you remember the Colts a few years ago, they signed Andrew Luck to what was a massive extension at the time, and then they were complaining because Andrew Luck's contract handicapped them in free agency and why they couldn't add any more pieces to his arsenal. Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack are making more money per year than Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, Cam Newton, and Tom Brady. So 4 of the 5 of those quarterbacks have either won or been in a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers being the exception, but he's had a lot of great years. So are you telling me that those 2 players are more valuable to a team's success than star quarterbacks? You can win a Super Bowl with a defensive tackle hole or a weak spot at defensive end. You can't do that at quarterback. And you can find defensive tackles in the draft, later in the draft, rather than spending $20 million. No, they're not going to be Aaron Donald. But the fact that you can game plan around a defensive tackle or defensive end, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, a couple counterpoints to what you mentioned. The Andrew Luck Colts example, the Colts are just so poorly run. I just want to throw that out there.
I don't care if they're poorly run. They're an NFL franchise.
They're just using Andrew Luck as a scapegoat for why their roster is horrible besides Andrew Luck.
So now that Peyton took them to a Super Bowl, is he better than Tom Brady?
Well, I'm not getting into that right now. Another thing for the Bears. The McCaskies, the ownership of the Chicago Bears, would probably agree with you before that you should only spend money like that on a quarterback. That's why Jay Cutler and Mike Glennon got horrible deals for the organization.
Don't speak of Mike Glennon.
But no, I'm just happy the McCaskies actually spent money on a player who deserves it. It's a long history with the Bears not doing that. This roster, and another important thing I forgot to mention, the Bears have a quarterback on a rookie deal, which is big for an organization in terms of spending on other players. They need to utilize and capitalize on that at the moment, and they did by signing Mack to that huge deal.
Yes, but he's on a rookie deal now, but when it comes time, if he needs a mega extension, you're already going to have another quarterback money on the roster. You can't do that and handicap yourself in a time when you then need to sign your quarterback, and it's not like you're going to win a Super Bowl with Trubisky on his rookie deal.
There'll be a couple years where spending is a little tighter than Bears fans are used to, yes, but this roster is closer than a lot of people realize. The defense went from being a sneaky good defense to then adding Khalil Mack, one of the best defensive players in the league, to a bona fide good defense. They added some position players in the offseason. The offense really is all about Trubisky taking the next step. We'll see if that's going to happen under Matt Nagy as head coach. But I don't know. I like the Khalil Mack signing. I like the extension. I like Chicago football being something again.
You have to look at this not as a Bears fan, as an analysis. Because if you look at it from a Bears fan, Yeah, you got the best player in football, or one of the best defensive players in football. Sure. Yes, your defense got better, but you're not going to win a Super Bowl with Mitch Trubisky on a rookie deal. He's not going to be developed enough yet.
We'll see. We'll see. Anything is possible. Even the Bears winning the Super Bowl after 1985.
So the next thing we're going to go on to is going to talk about Le'Veon Bell, how he still, with less than a week until week 1, has not reported Steelers practice.
Does he have a rap album that he's working on currently that he's too busy to get back to the team?
I have not heard that. But from a teammate chemistry perspective, this is the second year in a row he's done this. Yes, he's one of, if not the best running back in football. Yes, he deserves money. But all these players have been here in training camp. And obviously it's different since you're Le'Veon Bell. But it's just not good for team chemistry for him to not show up and then come in. Obviously, we don't know what his role is going to be yet. But obviously he's going to play if he's there for week 1, to come in and just take over all these touches that all these other players were competing for. It's just not good for team chemistry.
And, the team says he's uncertain for week 1, whether he'll be in condition to play, probably not. But look for James Conner to get a bulk of the carries. If he proves to be the future of the franchise, if Bell decides to leave, could be good move for Pittsburgh. Have another lead back right behind Bell.
I think at this point, Le'Veon Bell's already made up his mind that he's not. He's gone after this year.
There's no way he's returning to Pittsburgh.
He's just burning his bridges to see if he can actually get any money.
From a Roethlisberger, from an Antonio Brown, from the rest of the core of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're coming off a couple years in a row with disappointing playoff losses in the prime of your Super Bowl potential with Roethlisberger still there. You want all your players back. You want to try to get ahead of New England and try to actually get to or win a Super Bowl.
So our next topic, we're going to talk about Sam Darnold. After the Jets traded Teddy Bridgewater to the Saints, that opened up the starting spot for Sam Darnold. He will now, on Sunday, be the youngest starting quarterback to start an opening day since the 1970 merger. He'll be 21 years old in 97 days. The previous record holder was Drew Bledsoe, who started the opening day at 21 years, 203 days. And I think the big point of this is, like all rookie quarterbacks, he's going to make a lot of mistakes. And Jets fans, even if he is the future of the franchise, it's not going to look like it in the beginning. Yes, he had great spots in the preseason, great times in the preseason, but it's going to look really bad the first few weeks.
Are we going second or third drive of the game until Jets fans start booing him?
Maybe the second.
Maybe second? Okay, that we're being optimistic here. Could be second or third play, knowing Jets fans. That's about it on the Darnold perspective of things. We're moving now into an interesting situation that my co-host here has come up on.
So there was a list that I saw on the interweb about it's a game called 1 Game, 1 Year, and 10 Years. So you take a group of players and you try to decide who you would want for 1 game, who you would want for this year, and who you would want for the next 10 years.
And I did not know this at first, and Reed had to explain it to me. You can only pick each of these quarterbacks on the list for one of them. You can't pick Carson Wentz for 1 game, 1 year, 10 years.
So we're going to go by a bunch of young quarterbacks. So Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes, those are second-year quarterbacks. Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, and Carson Wentz are all third-year quarterbacks. Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota are fourth-year quarterbacks. And Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo are fifth. So now the goal is to pick one of those quarterbacks for 1 game, one quarterback you'd want for 1 year, and one quarterback you'd want for 10 years.
So we'll start off with the 1 game pick for quarterback. I went with the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, as my 1 game. He's unproven, yes. He's still undefeated. Who knows how long that will last? Not very, if I were to guess. But, he's been very successful in the Shanahan offense. He's been picking it up and proving to be a successful NFL quarterback. He was kind of hidden behind Tom Brady, but he seems to be emerging as one of the next great quarterbacks.
I really almost put Jimmy Garoppolo here because, he's got the winning pedigree. Yeah, he doesn't put up great numbers all the time, but he just knows how to win. But I went with Deshaun Watson. Yes, he only played a few games last year, but he showed superstar potential. He's got big game stats already, and I think the clutch factor that he's shown, whether it's at the end of games or back when he was at Clemson, I think that's a great thing to have for 1 game.
So moving on to 1 season, I have who was probably going to be the MVP last year before his injury, Carson Wentz. Took a major step forward last year, looked like a bona fide franchise quarterback for the Eagles, leading them on their Super Bowl run before Nick Foles took him home. Yes, I went over Garoppolo for the 1 season portion. I just have a little more faith in Carson Wentz, a little bit of a larger sample size. And physically, he's all you want in a quarterback, and he seems like the type of guy who could lead a team to multiple championships.
For 1 year, I also had Carson Wentz. I liked him out of college, but I didn't think he would be this good this soon because the way he developed his first year, he showed flashes, but last year he looked like a stud. I mean, a lot of young quarterbacks make mistakes. He was 33-7 touchdown to interception last year. That's unheard of for a young quarterback to be that careful with the ball.
And now moving to the last one, 10 years. I went with the breakout candidate or the breakout player from last year, Deshaun Watson. Before his injury, he was one of the most electrifying players in football. I went with Watson over Wentz for the 10-year perspective. I think we're going to see similar numbers like that for what he put up last year over the next couple of years. I don't know if he'll ever exceed those type of numbers. I see Deshaun Watson being a multiple-time MVP in this league if he can stay healthy, rather. And I think he'll just build upon what he did last year as he gets more familiar with the NFL.
My 10 years, I almost didn't do it, but I put Patrick Mahomes. Now, this is a risk reward. He has a very high ceiling, but also has a very low floor. There's so many the archetype of player that he is. He could turn into an Aaron Rodgers type player where he can do everything right, does everything perfect. But he could also turn into a Brett Favre where he makes a lot of great plays, got stronger, but he also makes a lot of mistakes, throwing bad interceptions, trying to make throws that he can't make but thinks he can because he has a cannon. Or he could turn into Cam Newton with less mobility. I mean, Cam has his flashes, but he's aside from his MVP year, he's really struggled with accuracy. And yeah, he's got a great arm, but accuracy has really been his downfall. He's got all the tools. He's got one of the strongest arms in football already. He's very mobile. He's not good enough to run like a run-pass option, but he can escape the pocket and make it happen. He's got a very good football IQ. He's always been around the game. But the key for him is he has to avoid turnovers. It's what young QBs struggle with, and he's got to know the limits of his arm.
Wow, the resident Chiefs fan picked Patrick Mahomes to lead the franchise.
Did you hear our last podcast where you picked 5 Bears in our award section?
And I had great reasons for all of them.
Okay, and did I not just talk for five?
Your comparisons for him were Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and Cam Newton. I said
that's the archetype of player he could turn to. Not he's going to be them.
3 MVPs.
I'm just saying he could do all of it good. He could not learn how to not make mistakes, or he could just never be accurate. That's all I'm saying.
Just saying, you could have used like Jay Cutler as one.
Because I'm not going to compare the guy I want for 10 years to Jay Cutler.
Good call.
So now this is going to be a recurring section on our podcast. Every week we're going to do rapid fire NFL picks. So we're going to list all the games, and then we're each going to pick who we have winning the game. And we're going to keep a cumulative record, and at some point we're going to figure out what the loser has to do when we get later into it. So we're just going to go rapid fire. There's not going to be analysis or anything. It's just going to be what's the game and who's our pick.
Starting off the season in Philadelphia, Thursday night football, Atlanta at Philly. I'm taking the Eagles in this game.
I wanted to pick the Eagles, and I think Nick Foles will do better than people are giving him crap for, but I have the Falcons because I think they are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Steve Sarkisian's second year is going to be better.
Should be a good game to open up the season. Moving on, Buffalo at Baltimore. I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens this game. Not a good year for Buffalo.
I, too, have the Ravens. Nathan Peterman's going to look bad against his defense.
Yeah, not going to be good. Third game, Houston Texans at the New England Patriots. I'm taking the Patriots. We're on to Houston.
I have the Texans mostly because I think Deshaun Watson he's going to go out there with something to prove, and last year the Chiefs dismantled the Patriots week 1. So just going off that, plus Watson, I think that this will be the game of the week right here, but I have the Texans.
Yeah, I just wanted to see how a couple of their key players come back from injury. Next game, the Tennessee Titans at the Miami Dolphins. I'm taking the new-look Tennessee Titans with their Patriots-esque roster build.
I have the Titans. Dolphins are not good.
Very true. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. Will the Cleveland Browns pick up their first regular season win for the first time in over a year? No, they will not. The Pittsburgh Steelers will win this game.
I too have. I want to pick the Browns, start the season strong. Hugh Jackson, Coach of the Year, but I have the Steelers.
Cincinnati Bengals at the Indianapolis Colts. I see the Colts winning in Andrew Luck's return.
I have the Colts, but I think this will be another close game, except not for the same reason the Texans and Patriots were a close game, because it'll be sloppy, bad. Andrew Luck is not going to... From what I've read, his velocity isn't what it needs to be, so we'll see how that plays out.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints. I don't think Fitzpatrick is going to beat Breeze in New England for this game, or in New Orleans, sorry. So I'm taking the Saints.
Saints.
All that needs to be said. Can Jimmy Garoppolo keep his undefeated streak alive as the 49ers travel to Minnesota? No, I see the Vikings winning this game.
Vikings at home for sure.
The Jacksonville Jaguars at the New York Giants. I'm taking the Jags, tearing apart Manning in this game.
I too have the Jaguars. Eli's going to have a lot of picks. Saquon's going to have a rude awakening to the NFL.
Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to take the Chargers in this game. Should be a good start to a good year. That's the problem with the Chargers. They need to get off to a fast start. I think they'll do that this year.
They need to find a kicker, most importantly.
That helps too.
I have the Chargers too. I think this will be another good game, but I have the Chargers winning.
The Dallas Cowboys at the Carolina Panthers. I'm taking the Panthers. I think Cam will take strides in this new offense too.
I have the Panthers as well. I think Christian McCaffrey's going to bust out and be a stud this year.
Washington Redskins at Arizona Cardinals. Maybe if Josh Rosen was starting, I'd pick the Cardinals, but since it's Sam Bradford, I'm going with the safe pick in the Washington Redskins and Alex Smith.
I have the Cardinals. Sam Bradford is the last 2 years, he's been a good quarterback as long as he's healthy, and there's no predicting an injury unless it's him.
I think he could already have an injury, and we're just maybe not hearing about it. Never know with Sam Bradford.
I have the Cardinals.
All right, moving on. Seattle at Denver. It's a good matchup in terms of Russell Wilson versus the Broncos defense. I'm taking Russell Wilson in this one.
I have the Broncos in this game. I think Case Keenum's going to show up against this decrepit Seahawks defense.
The Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. I'm taking my Chicago Bears in this game, obviously. The debut for Khalil Mack, I think he's going to wreak havoc on Aaron Rodgers.
You are an embarrassment. You just tried to get mad at me for picking Pat Mahomes, and you just picked him over Aaron Rodgers.
In one game, not a 10-year quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau in the opener. Yeah, good. Yeah. Keep giving me crap about it.
Surprise team, it's going to be the Bears this year.
Yeah, okay.
Winning against the Packers.
I have the Packers.
Oh, really? I couldn't tell from your tone.
I'm sorry, you picked against Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau with Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah, good call.
There's more to a team than just the quarterback.
It's pretty important when he attempts 9 passes a game.
They won that game. That doesn't help your argument. The first of the 2 Monday Night Football games, the New York Jets at the Detroit Lions. I'm going to give Jets the win in Darnold's first career start.
I think Darnold's going to make too many. I think he'll show a flash, but I think he's going to make too many mistakes. I have Matt Stafford and the Lions taking this one.
And then the final game of the loaded Week 1 matchups, the Los Angeles Rams at the who really knows what they are, Oakland Raiders. I'm going with the Rams. Gruden's team is full of question marks. I'm excited for John Gruden to be back in football, but I think they're going to get stomped by the Rams in Week 1.
I have the Rams too, but I forgot to mention this in our last segment. If we had done this before last year, Derek Carr 100% would have been on either one game, 1 year, or 10 years. Because before last year, he almost won MVP before he broke his leg. So I think it's amazing to see after 1 year just how much he's fallen off of our radar for that.
So that makes up our portion of game picks for Week 1. We move now to our debate of the week, and it's more of a list form this week than an actual debate. We each have our top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL as of right now, and we'll compare and see how our lists look against each other's. I'm going to start off first with my bottom 5. I'm going to start with number 10. I have Andrew Luck. He is a top 5 candidate if he's ever healthy. 10's kind of a safe spot for me, considering all the injury problems and him not throwing in a while.
For my number 10 quarterback, we're doing this based off track record, but also this is basically our top 10 quarterbacks that we would want to lead our team this season. So, yeah, if Jimmy Garoppolo's only played 7 games, it's not basing off a legacy. We're basing off who you would want to lead your team this year.
As of right now.
Yeah. So I have Jimmy Garoppolo at number 10. He didn't put up flashy stats, but he got wins, and I think with his new offense, and obviously Jerick McKinnon's out, but he's got the weapons to put up a great year.
Number 9, I have a potential future Hall of Famer in Ben Roethlisberger. We'll see if he can. Obviously, it looks like another playoff year for the Steelers this year. We'll see if they can get farther past New England or Jacksonville or whomever they play in the postseason. But yeah, Big Ben's still a franchise quarterback. We'll see if he can get back to elite status.
For my number 9, I have Matthew Stafford. Got one of the best arms in football, and he's got weapons. Golden Tate, Marvin Jones. May has a running back by committee this season. I think Kerryon Johnson's going to be a stud, like I said last week, but I have Matthew Stafford at number 9.
Number 8, former MVP Matt Ryan, second year in the Sarkisian offense. They have so many weapons all around him. 2 very good running backs, a good wide receiving core, good O-line. I think Matt Ryan in year 2 of the Sarkisian system takes a big step.
For my number 8, I have Deshaun Watson. I think he's going to be good. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns, but as you saw last year, and he threw 8 interceptions in however many games last year. So I think he'll have his moments, but I also think he still has a lot to learn.
Number 7, I have Deshaun Watson. Not a fluke last year. I think he's only going to keep getting better. It appears the knee is healed up well, and he'll only continue to get better.
My number 7, I have Matt Ryan. Just like you said, a lot of weapons, great weapons around him, great offensive line. Sarkisian's going to be better this year play calling.
Number 6, a very underrated quarterback in Phillip Rivers. He never really gets the attention or the credit he deserves. He consistently puts up good years, and I think this year with the Chargers poised to do very good things, he's going to get that attention he deserves.
I have Phillip Rivers for all the same reasons at number 6. It just seems like he always has somebody that's just better than him. He's never been the quarterback, so I agree that he doesn't get the love that he deserves.
Moving into the exclusive part of our list, the top 5. At number 5, I have Carson Wentz. I discussed a lot of the reasons I like Carson Wentz already. He's a physical specimen at quarterback. He has all the intangibles you want out of your quarterback, and he seems poised to lead the Eagles to another good year this year.
I also had Carson Wentz at number 5. I think he's going to be a stud with multiple MVPs in his future.
Number 4, surefire Hall of Famer, first ballot, Drew Brees. He took a lesser role in the passing game last year with Kamara and Ingram and the great running game they had there. But he, like I've said before on this podcast, set the record for completion percentage in a season. I think Drew Brees is still top caliber quarterback in the NFL, and he's going to lead the Saints this year.
I also had Drew Brees at number 4, but I think he's going to have a higher volume this year because going into last year, they weren't expecting the run, so it was more of game planning for Drew Brees and, they can run the ball. This year it's, they can run the ball, but we also have to stop Drew Brees. So I think he'll have a better statistical year than last year.
Number 3, Russell Wilson, the leader of the Seattle Seahawks. He had to do everything, literally everything by himself last year for the Seahawks. They added a couple pieces around him this year, drafted a running back in the first round, but it's a new-look Seattle team. He's probably the only surefire thing on the Seattle roster this year.
I have Russell Wilson at 3. I think if it wasn't for the era of quarterbacks that are in it right now, he'd definitely be the top. He counted for 80-some-odd% of the Seahawks offense last year. The O-line's terrible. He's going to be running for his life, but he does it somehow. I don't know how he does it, but he's once-in-a-generation type player.
Number 2, I think this is where I'll be different than my co-host. I have Aaron Rodgers at number 2. Not worried about him at all coming off of injury. I picked him for my league MVP this year. Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the most talented arms, if not the most talented arm we've ever seen, and I don't think that's going to change this year for Aaron Rodgers.
I have Tom Brady at number 2, but it's 1A and 1B because the intangibles that Tom Brady brings. Yes, he doesn't have the strongest arm anymore, and no, he doesn't have the greatest weapons around him, and Julian Edelman's suspended, and Gronk threatens to retire every year, and Bill Belichick has a rift, but he does it and he gets the Super Bowls. Like, if you put any other quarterback not named Aaron Rodgers on this roster, no way this is a playoff team, but Tom Brady's going to do it, and he's going to bring them at least to the AFC playoffs, if not the championship game, if not the Super Bowl.
And, my number 1, Tom Brady, as Jalen Ramsey put it, he does not suck. That is absolutely true. He's the best quarterback in football right now. He won league MVP. I know there were some injuries last year, but still won the award. I think when you're going into a game against the Patriots, the only guy you're worrying about is Tom Brady. Some of the weapons on the outside you won't have to worry about on other teams. He'll get people the ball, he'll find your weakness, and he'll make you regret your defense.
I have Aaron Rodgers number 1, like I said, 1A and 1B. But just watching him play, watching his highlight reel on YouTube might be one of the greatest things to watch. It's just effortless, everything he does. It's just like the blink of an eye, and the ball's 40 yards downfield. His release is lightning quick. And I mean, everyone saw how they collapsed last year with Brett Hundley. Yes, Brett Hundley's not a starting caliber quarterback, but they look lost without Aaron Rodgers, and he's the glue that keeps this team together.
So that wraps up our quarterback comparisons. We had some similarities, especially at the top 5 or so, had some differences in the lower 5. We now close out this episode of the podcast with each of our clown of the week. I'll lead off first. Something that I want to call it a clown as much as something that is bothering to me or seems a little cliched to me is all the turnover props that are now popping up over college football. Miami had a lot of success last year with the turnover chain. You're now seeing with the turnover change, turnover thrones, turnover belts, and every team has, most of teams, if you get a turnover, they have something special for you when you come back to the sideline instead of, just good job or a high five. I think it's just a little cliched. It seems forced. And just because Miami had success with it last year doesn't mean every single team in college football has to do it this year.
For my clown of the week, I have the Buffalo Bills management. Yes, it is a recurring theme of what are they doing. I mean, they sign A.J. McCarron to a 2-year deal in the offseason, and they trade him before the season starts. They don't even give him a chance to start. They knew when they drafted Josh Allen he was going to be a project, and now they have Nathan Peterman starting. I think he gets a bad rap because he had a bad half. And yes,
a very bad half.
That could have happened to anyone, but he's not a starting caliber quarterback. I get that you traded Tyrod Taylor, but why wouldn't you make another run with A.J. McCarron? He's an established starting quarterback, and they're going to throw Josh Allen into the fire too soon. That could be potentially fatal for a young quarterback like him coming from a small school.
I really think the Bills accidentally made the playoffs last year. Like, with all the... Having the Bills management as clown of the week is nothing new. You could have this about every other week for Bills management. With the trades, the signings they've made, who knows what LaShawn McCoy's situation is. I know that's not on the Bills management, but it fits right into the Bills culture. It doesn't seem like the Bills are going to be playoff caliber or good again within the next several years.
No, I don't think they're going to be playoff caliber, but it's just kind of customary for a team to make the playoffs like the Bengals and just try to hold on. And even though they know they're not going to make the playoffs, they just try to hold on before they blow it up.
Which is why Marvin Lewis has been there since 1947.
That is true. And that wraps up our first official episode from Slater Hall.
Hopefully you enjoyed it. This episode will be back to you next week with another edition of Read and Read.
I'm Reed.
I'm Robert, last name Reed, in case you didn't get the title.
And we'll see you next week.